All right, so we have to keep in mind we're in neoclassical zone here, right? That's why we've got LRASN. So it's the neoclassical long-run aggregate supply curve. And we have flexible prices, right? So we start here where we're at our YP, right? We're at our potential GDP. We're at full employment. There's zero cyclical unemployment. Now, something happens to shift demand out. Doesn't matter what. There's an increase in population. There's expected future incomes increase. Expected inflation increases in the future, causing people to consume more today, right? There's all sorts of things that could happen. But regardless, people are consuming more things. And so the producers, right, our short-run aggregate supply curve, there's going to be a movement along that short-run aggregate supply curve as more and more firms are incentivized to participate in overtime hiring and, kind of burn the candle at both ends, right? We have a lot of excess capacity in our current system. To illustrate that, if we take a look at the Industrial Revolution system, right, in the 1800s, they were so efficient that, and it's also like really depressing. So don't get my cheerfulness of this quote misinterpreted by me endorsing this activity. But it was like a sweatshop for like little kids, right? And they had 3 shifts of 8 hours. And they would pride themselves on the fact that no bed ever got cold. Because as soon as one, set of little kids got up to work, another set finished their shift and went back down to work. So that all to be said, we have lots of excess capacity in our current system, right? If we really needed to push things and add a second or a third shift, typically factories and businesses have that capacity, right? So in the short run, they can push and produce at this equilibrium, right? That is, if let's say this is $500 billion, right? This would be $600 billion. So now they're able to produce an extra $100 billion of goods per year. What's this going to do to our price level? It's going to increase our price level, right? We're going to start off at, let's say, price index of 100, and we're going to end up at a price index of like 120. So now is where things get different. So now, because we're in the neoclassical zone and we have flexible wages and prices, what's the situation when we're producing at 600 and our potential GDP is 500, right? This difference here, right, we would call this an inflationary gap. The reason why we call it an inflationary gap is because this means that unemployment is very low. It's below our natural rate of unemployment. So when you are beyond the long-run aggregate supply curve, that means that it's difficult to get and keep your workers. You have to pay them more money in order to keep them around and keep them productive. So unemployment rate is very low, and we're going to say even more so, it's unsustainably low. And so because of the unemployment rate being unsustainably low, we have eager employers bidding up wages. And so what are wages? Wages is one of my vital inputs of production, right? A major input to production. So if there's an increase in my wages, that's going to cause there to be a decrease in my short-run aggregate supply curve. So increase in my wages, because it's an input cost, causes my short-run aggregate supply curve to shift to the left. And so we end up back at the long run aggregate supply curve. So there was no long run increase in our productive output. We had a short run, little spurt there where we were making 600 billion instead of 500 billion. But in the end, we go back to making 500 billion, but now the price of everything is higher. So this is the neoclassical story when AD increases. So it's because of the flexible wages and the fact that this gap here is telling us that unemployment is unsustainably low, which means that eager employers bid up our wages, which causes our short run aggregate supply curve to shift to the left. Questions on this rebounding behavior?